Greetings, Internet. This is a quick little, in a nutshell, tutorial video on replacing the left ramp diverter on a Jersey Jack limited edition game, Guns N' Roses. So this piece right here, it snaps off, clean snap. So you just peel this cover off, and the bolts right here are the little nuts here are 8mm on each of these in the front. And we'll compare the original part to the new one where it snapped clean in half. Over on a table I laid the parts. This is the switch on the ramp. I had to take the cover off. 2 ramp screws, middle of the ramp screw. I dropped one in the cabinet. I can get it later. This is the front of the ramp screws. This is a ball guide to stop from stuck balls, and this is another plastic. And this had to be taken out to get to the actual diverter. Like I said, there's the switch that goes on the left ramp, and where it goes in place down here. It basically had to. Actually, it goes right here. Yeah, it goes, but it'll be right here when it's back. I had to take it out of place so I could move the whole ramp assembly out of the way to get to this. So it's not too bad. I just had to take the switch out of its position to get to it. So the bottom nut is the nut and bolt is the easiest one to start so far. So I'll tighten that, still give it a little slack, and then start working on the other one. I just take the bit and hand turn it by hand instead with a wrench or anything to get it started. It's easier to get it this way. It's a tight spot. This is a 8mm socket. This is a cobalt tool that I use. It gets the job done. I always keep different types and sizes of tools to get the job done. Tighten it by hand. I'm going to start working on the other one in a second, see how it fits. Just on that outlaying guide, and it fits like a champ. The top nut was pretty easy to get to. I started it by hand, and it's already getting tight. It's a locking nut. I start tightening that up, and I believe it was all the way down instead of all the way up. It was already settled down, so I'll start with it down and then adjust if I have to. But I believe it should be adjusted down instead of up, so it's not sticking out of the hole, the slot in the ramp itself. Here it is in place with full actuation, and it looks good to go so far. So these nuts are 11/32. Again, on the actual diverter it was 8mm. But this is 11/32 on these 2 nuts. And when you put it back together, you want to put the metal ramp in first onto that bolt, which then this little plastic cover goes over. And then I start the screws at the start of the ramp, and then I'll do the ones in the back, and then I'll do the one in the middle. That one's in the bottom of the cabinet, and I'll get that at the end. So that right there is this is 11/32. There probably is no easy way to do this switch, but I did the first screw first and got it started and held it in place the whole way. To get this to wiggle underneath the leaf switch, I disconnect the other side and then put it back. And don't forget to put this back in place. Hold the plastic screwed in place, hand tight. Never use power tools on things that should just be hand tight. I don't forget to put the switch cover and the zip tie back in place. Then while we're underneath here, we clean and tighten down the ramp screws for good. Again, hand tight on those. So put the last screw in the middle of the ramp. Then we boot up. And we're going to see and test if this piece is working just fine, which it should. Once you're in test, you just pull that knob out. Let's pull that switch out. And we get to the diverter test to test it. And so now we test it. This is test coil number 25. We'll just let it run for a minute. Make sure it doesn't bind up. It's coil number 25, left ramp diverter power. We set it to repeat. And we make sure it goes without hitting the ramp itself. And that is the repair for the left ramp diverter